Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and today we're going to be talking about regulation and adoption of cryptocurrency here in 2021. And what better way to do it than on the day that Bitcoin not only hits 50,000, but also surpasses it. And yes, it did regress afterwards, but a huge milestone reached nonetheless. We're very excited. DeFi total locked value, we saw just resting under that $40 billion all-time high as well. A huge shout out to Uniswap, who also surpassed their all-time high of $100 billion and crossed that at 101 and a half as well. And we also had news that Celsius, a big shout out to Alex and the team, has now crossed over, sharing rewards with their users. Almost $250 million in today's value that has been provided or distributed, to their over 400,000 users globally since their launch in mid 2018. A huge amount of milestones that have been reached today here in the industry, and a lot more to come. Also pushing that adoption curve towards mass adoption slowly, but we're working towards it. But it's also brought in more questions around regulation, which is what we're going to be talking about today as well. If this is your first time tuning in to VCTV, welcome. Make sure you click subscribe, share the episode, and also be sure to check out the archive on LATOKEN.com to hear from today's guests and all of the VCTV family as we bring the best and the brightest from around the world to share their thoughts and insights along with on-the-ground perspective around topics like today and other technologies and industries and, of course, regions around the world. And if you'd like to be on a show like today, either as an investor or as an entrepreneur to pitch your company, product, or service, reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find that right spot for you. Speaking of that team, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and jump in and introduce today's guest. Again, a big, exciting topic to talk about on an exciting day. We also had news that MicroStrategies is raising another $600 million, Frederico, get this, to buy more Bitcoin. Their current value of Bitcoin is right around $3.5 billion. They're looking to buy some more. Very exciting news. But before we dive into that, Frederico, welcome. A little intro and a little background to all of those listeners that we have out there today.
Hello, Kyle. It's always a pleasure to be around. I'm Frederic Mesquita. I'm a founding partner at Lotus Investment Strategies. We are a global investment company aimed more at blockchain and crypto opportunities all over the world, but also a little bit on clean energy and anything related with trends and value creation.
I love it. Well, welcome, Frederico. It's a pleasure as always, as you said. And just diving right into today's topic. I mean, yesterday we had you on here with VCTV and we spoke a little bit about the blockchain and the DeFi space, and you brought up NFTs and how that's a very important spot for you. And maybe before we go down the NFT space, which we saw a ton of activity yesterday, a shout out to Futuralicious, which I apologize for the pronunciation there, an artist who sold over $700,000 in art yesterday and a total of over $1 million in the past few months. We're starting to see more activity, including NBA Top Shop put on by Dapper Labs, and also many others starting to see huge volumes in the space of NFTs. But before we go into NFTs, talk to us about what you're seeing in terms of the adoption of cryptocurrencies from your perspective. You focus a lot on Latin America and also South America, Brazil in particular. What is or is not happening around the adoption in the space?
I think that there is a trend. There is a clear trend since our former all-time high in 2017 of $20,000, and Bitcoin is going mainstream month after month. As we always say, when retail is not paying attention, it's when things are happening, and that's what has happening for the past couple of years in 2019 and last year, while the price was going down and we had the pandemic and everything there. uh, that's when things are happening. That's when MicroStrategy was buying. That's when other institutional players were buying, actually. And we used to have a strong OTC arm in our company, and it was clear that more and more the institutional players were coming into crypto. They came silently. They do not advertise that they are buying. You cannot be MicroStrategy and buy, or Elon Musk buying 1.5 billion in Bitcoin
Hmm.
and announce before, because this is always going silently. But that has been true not only now, but since 2018, 2019, and past years. So that's what we have been seeing happening. More and more adoption, not only as a speculative asset, I'm going buy and sell from hedge funds and stuff like that, but also family officers. In Middle East, especially a lot of family officers in the United States, depending exactly on our topic today, because it depends on regulations. But um, when in countries, in regions where regulations were faster, also adoption went faster for institutional institutions. The volume is much bigger than retail, so that's what has been happening for the past couple of years. It's no surprise for us seeing these kind of highlights and headlines about Elon Musk or MicroStrategy, and other will come because crypto has been accepted, regulations are being put in place, and now you have a lot of not only family offices or financial players, but also usual companies investing a little bit in Bitcoin here, a little bit in Ethereum there, just for treasure purpose. So that's a trend, and it's going to be the trend for 2021 and the years ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, we're seeing this in a more aggressive stance, right? We even have, kind of undertone rumors right now in terms of Morgan Stanley jumping into the space in a big way. Now, Morgan Stanley, just for clarity, also owns a portion of stock in MicroStrategies, but they're looking independently of that to get into the space as well. And again, Facebook, or now Ademi, is starting to enter into the space as well, following PayPal, Visa, and MasterCard. We've got more of the Fortune 500 that are starting to look at this space as well. What'll be interesting is if that starts to reach into the SMB, so the small and medium-sized enterprise or businesses as well, and seeing how those individual companies start to get into this space. Interestingly enough, and Frederico, a little question around adoption. Furthermore, is stable coins. So there has been a lot of talk, and again, the announcement of Demi today. Stable coins. Have you seen anything around this? Is Brazil, or again South America as a whole, looking at stable coins as a potential adoption, whether that's individuals or even at the government level around central bank, so CBDC, central bank digital currencies, or some countries are just, again, creating their own digital version of their local currency or a stable coin as well. Have you seen anything like this in Brazil?
Yes, actually, Brazil is from a government perspective. We are all one of the leaders in trying to study and play with options in the regulatory arena. So we don't have a lot of things in place, but our government has been very accessible for private players bringing ideas and say, okay, I want to tokenize this, or I want to create an ETF for that. So they are very open to new ideas, and they create a sandbox to allow these entrepreneurs to bring new ideas into this space. This is not only in Brazil. You can see that in Singapore. China is leading the way. And when you talk about stable coins, uh, stable coins and central bank digital currencies, they are kind of related. There is a trend for CBDCs, and it's inevitable because it makes it easier to make business, and it makes cheaper too. So that puts some pressures in some governments because, especially when you're talking about the big ones, the big fish, the sharks like China, United States. So right now you have countries like Bahamas or Bermudas that already
Mhm.
put in place a CBDC for the whole country, but they are not relevant. Sorry, people from there, but they're not relevant for the world economy, for the world trade. Uh, when you look at China initiatives and the pilot project that's already in millions of people using, that
Mhm.
is a completely different uh, 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 issue. Because
Mhm.
if China or any other large place start using a digital currency and introduce that into international trade, that has implications for everyone, and that
Mhm.
has implications for everyone, especially for the United States, when you're trying to compete for a global leadership, because other countries may start using the yuan instead of the dollar, and then it's not the topic, but it has a lot of implications from the economic and international trade perspective.
Mhm.
So uh, that said, it's clear that you need to be worried about and you need to be thinking about, and that's why both Europe and the United States and any other major economy has large groups already and interdisciplinary groups thinking about how to implement a digital currency or their own digital currency for global purpose.
Yeah, and there has been a lot of activity that we.
Just
Oh, please go ahead.
now, I was just saying that, for instance, here in Brazil, uh, 3 months ago in November, Brazil established payment systems that is a first step towards a digital currency. But right now, I can send money in to anywhere in Brazil at zero cost and instantly. So we will we
Wow.
will we will be leading the pack, I guess.
So just similar to, and this is a great point. I mean, we had Singapore that had been working on this with JP Morgan and Tessemac and a few others very quietly for almost 5 years. And just late last year announced the project that they had been working around their digital currency as well. And they had put it in phases very similar to what you just told us about Brazil. We also see Thailand doing the same thing, and a number of other countries going into this phased approach versus just here's everything. And even China, to your point, the digital yuan, I mean, that is very much a phased approach that they're rolling that out and continuing to test or do various trials and tests to see what works and what doesn't as well. So it's a great point. And Federico, what do you see maybe as those one or two big hangups towards the bigger adoption of crypto and digital currencies, whether that be stable coins, whether that be something else? And what do you see as those few hangups right now?
Um, the first major step towards adoption is ease of use. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, Crypto is still really a technical stuff. It's hard.
Mhm.
I have a group of friends here that they created a school of crypto,
Mm.
and one of them always says that crypto is the revolution. No, you have this kind of people anywhere. Is the revolution? Is not your keys, not your money, all that kind of stuff. But we have to remember that for most ordinary people, it's not that easy to remember keys and understand and wallets and all this stuff. So, as any other innovation in the history of humankind, things only go mainstream and when they are transparent.
Mhm.
When crypto goes into our day-to-day business of sending money or spending money or or making money, but just in a few clicks, and I really don't have a clue what's happening uh, under the surface. That's when we are going mainstream, and that has been true in a lot of initiatives that we have been seeing lately in several
Mhm.
aspects. When you talk about central currencies, digital central banks, digital currencies, this is an ease of use. Like in Brazil, everybody is using the system is called Pix. So everybody's using Pix because you have your own bank app, and there is just one button that say Pix. Okay, I
Mhm.
want to send money to Kyle. I use Pix. Pix. What's Kyle key? It's his name. It's his phone number. It's his security number. I just use it, and the money is there instantly. It could be a CBDC,
Yeah.
and it would be transparent. The same goes when you talk about anything that's been tokenized. For example, collectibles. There is a large initiative with dozens of licenses.
Mhm.
There is a crypto token behind, but for anyone that collects stamps or Disney cards or whatever, they are not interested in the crypto. For us that are investors and for everybody in their Telegram group, they're talking about the token and how we made 2,000% from the last 30, 90 days. That was great. But for anyone interested in the card,
Mhm.
they just want to buy a card from Batman and sell a card from of Superman and stuff like that. So that's the major point in crypto. We need to integrate that in our day-to-day business, being payments, being using in buying a card, or buying an apartment, or transferring my ownership of my boat to you. I don't have a boat, but just to be clear,
I got
or
excited.
anything like that. Despite being an island around here, but I don't have one. So that's the main point, and I think we are doing we as an ecosystem are doing the job has been done. We see a lot of initiatives from private and public sector towards this mission.
Yeah. And it's a good point. I mean, Matthew, from the Fifth Era, who we've had on here a number of times, Matthew Lemaire, he's spoken about this journey that we're all on together when we look at this shift we're making into the digital economy, and that it is, a decades long journey of transition, because changing our financial systems or any of our economic systems overnight is just not possible, for so many reasons, and not just technically, but also mentally, right? The mental models that we've
Exactly.
built, it's just, that's going to take time. And we're again seeing that phased approach. And you're bringing up a great example as well. I mean, yesterday we had BitPay announce that they have a early partnership with Apple, allowing BitPay's prepaid MasterCard to actually be added to the Apple Wallet and Apple Pay, and that now users of the Mastercard, and this is also in part to Mastercard's release and strategy, but now they're able to buy Bitcoin. They're able to use the Bitcoin that they may have or other currencies they have on that debit card to transact. Again, not everyone may use that. That's okay, but it is a step forward in that progression, right? MasterCard, Visa, we still haven't heard yet from Amex if they're going to do this, so American Express or Union Pay and others. But Visa and MasterCard have come out and said, hey, we're going to start using digital currencies and allowing for digital currencies to be traded on our network. And what that means is merchants will be able to start accepting them, and also users will be able to. We've got the news from PayPal opening it up to Venmo, their huge application here in the United States. So you're absolutely right. This is all beginning processes to something bigger. Now,
And just to add to your point, but we have to believe that as uh, TV didn't kill radio, credit cards
right,
didn't kill cash. The things will be coexisting in the future.
yes,
It doesn't matter how
complementary.
far crypto goes. The other, they are complementary, exactly.
Yeah. You'll still have them both. And even to that example, I mean, even credit cards and cash and checks and yes, to the world, there are places, including the United States, that still use checks, not just for business. But I mean, these all still coexist, even though a lot of them are moving to digital, right? You still have a physical credit card, but you also have the digital credit card in your particular wallet of choice. So you're absolutely right, Federico. And switching gears real quick, NFTs. Would love to hear your thoughts on more on NFTs, as I know this is a spot you're starting to focus. We saw huge news yesterday from PNB Paribas in a recent report they and their analytics arm put out that in 2020 the trading volume for NFTs actually surpassed $250 million, which was a 4x over the year previous, so 2019. And we're starting to see that even grow further and faster here in just the first 6 weeks of 21, pardon me. Axie Infinity saw we saw 9 Genesis plots sold for $1.5 million. Futurelicious, as I mentioned, an artist sold for art for over $700,000. We also saw NBA Top Shot, put on by Dapper Labs, announce almost $50 million in trading volume and revenue they've done in the first 6 weeks. So for you, I know why you're excited, but tell the audience why you're excited and where this industry is going so quickly.
There is one reason. When you talk about NFTs, you're talking about the Web 3.0. You're talking about bring the last step in digitalization. We have, I was already a grown man. So when Netscape and all the stuff, we just have information online. So I could find anything or almost anything. And then we start the second major uh, pillar of our society, that are relationships. And that when Orkut and MySpace and then Facebook and Google, etc., came. But we still don't have our real value into the web. And that's what about what NFTs are about. It's about digitizing the value in the real world, because anything that I can grab, a mouse or a pen, this is a real asset. And if I can sell to you, I have to send you the pen and you have to send me the one. NFTs digitize everything that we see around us. And even though I cannot digitize, or it's not still a nice, from economic perspective, they try to sell a digital pen. But when you talk about uh, first digital assets, that they are already online, and second real assets of large value, these are two major opportunities. So when you talk about digital art or anything that's unique, that's what NFT means. So it's a unique piece that can have their own value and can be transacted uh, on the internet. It's a revolution, because when we're just talking about how I can send you money through Pix at zero cost, so now I can buy any digital art and the transaction cost is zero. Not only the transaction cost is zero, but also the middlemen tend to disappear, or at least reduce. So I have less information asymmetry, I have less costs of transactions, and I have less intermediates. All these three can be translated into value, and value has a cost. So anything that has an increase in benefits over costs is something that has an appeal to be uh, uh, accepted for everyone. And that's one main point. The other great and major revolution is when you're talking about digitizing real large assets, like a real estate asset, like a hotel or a chain of hotels, or any company. When you look at securities, so when you can digitize securities, being shares in or stocks in a company, or a hotel or anything else. This breaks the same walls that digital arts or digital assets break. So now I can digitize my hotel here and raise $100 million, and this can be available to investors anywhere in the world. Much cheaper, much faster, with a clear symmetry of information, um, and it's good for both sides because uh, anyone that's digitizing their assets don't have to pay fees to anyone to make them available to investors anywhere in the world. This is true for anything, but it's even more important for assets that are problematic these days. For instance, carbon credits.
Mhm.
We are
Mhm.
in times that it's clearly how it's important uh, um, to save the planet, climate change, and all the talk. But how we do that? To do that, you need to have value. You need to protect. To protect, how do you protect Amazon forest if it's more profitable to chop the trees than to preserve them?
Mhm.
And so, and how do you make a business model that turns this around, that makes preservation more profitable than degradation? That's something that NFTs and blockchain allow, because now I can digitize any initiative in the Amazon forest or any other forest. I can digitize that as a project certified, of course, by some regulatory body that can be public or private.
Mhm.
I have a certification, and this
Mhm.
certification goes online into a blockchain, and it can be traded anywhere in the world.
Mhm.
So not only now I have this symmetry of information, not only I have this availability of the certificates and the tokens or whatever you may call it to
Mhm.
any investors in the world, but also it makes things easier, and it makes things um, standard, because one of the problems with carbon credit is that the price and regulation, this is different country to country, etc. When all this is online and all this is worldwide, it goes towards standardizations, because of course if I can buy here in my screen, I have two screens, one site is offering me a carbon credit at 10, the other at 5, I buy at 5. So
Right.
the one that's selling at 10 will have to do something. Why are you selling at 10? No. Did you pay more for certification? Are you trying to steal? And so the markets and now supply and demand goes as the theory, the economic theory actually works. And this is good for the investor, is good for the owner of the land, and of course, more important, it's good for the planet and it's good for a lot of us. So when you put all this together, to summarize, NFTs as an opportunity to digital assets. That's anything that's already digital form.
Mhm.
Second, anything that's in the real world and can be digitized as a unique asset in the internet. And third, markets that has been problematic and still are very important. All these three opportunities together is a multi-trillion dollar market opportunity that we have uh, in front of us. And that's why we are seeing so many new initiatives, so many people coming to buy, to sell, to create new startups, and even governments worry about it.
I love it. And Frederico, real quick, I mean, predictions for the digital economy. So if we look at 2021, we've got, again, it feels like it's going to be over tomorrow, but at the same time, again, we're only 6 weeks into this, or just over 6 weeks now, looking at the rest of the year, which could take a lot of time, as again, how this all feels. But looking ahead to the year, what are your big predictions? Maybe one, two, three big predictions as to where this industry goes as a digital economy, so that investors out there can start paying attention to some key areas, but entrepreneurs know also maybe where to start pointing their compass as they are building these companies and products and services for the next generation and really the next decades ahead.
From the investors, I see two major points. The first one is when you talk about crypto itself. Now, am I going to buy Bitcoin now? Am I going to? That's the question that everybody is asking every day. And a word of cautions, because Bitcoin is very expensive. $50,000 is a lot of money. There's a lot of space to go down again and retrace, and that could be our whole semester, weeks or months. So you need to be careful when, if you are, especially for a retail perspective, investing in crypto right now. Um, Institutional investors, they don't need advice; they know what to do, and they always do this step by step and over a long period of time. And that should be also the strategy for retailers. If you want to go into crypto, you're seeing talks about Bitcoin every day in the news. Just uh, if you have 10 grand, buy a little bit now, a little bit 30 days from now, and 6 days from now, money that you won't need. That's the best advice that you can give. The other investment part is all this happening right now. And this for me, our trend for 2021 is that we're going to see a lot of news on the NFT, um, and also a lot of discussions about regulations and how governments will play, how CBCDs coins in China or US, and discussions in the European uh, Parliament. This is going to be every month in the news because it's important for international trade, especially after pandemic and everything else. Um, from a private perspective, I would recommend people to really pay attention to these kind of opportunities when you're talking about investing or making investments available to people that are not people around you or in your country. Perspectives to raise money or invest in something that's on the other side of the world, because that's what digitizing real world is about. Um, you ask something?
No, that's no,
Uh,
you're spot on. I didn't know if you had one more point. I mean, this is great. And just again to the listeners, make sure you do your research. Nonetheless, as to what Federico said, it's great advice. But again, do your research. So if you're looking to make any investments on the currency side, again, digital currencies, do your research. Cannot emphasize that enough. But when it comes to this new digital
Especially
economy, I
because
mean,
we're talking about regulations a little bit, but there is a lot
yeah.
of regulations lacking. So
Yes.
it's not safe in every country, even in countries that are safer. Not everything is safe. So you really need
Mhm,
to do your own research and do it well done, not just
mhm,
reading a couple of papers or websites, because the same opportunity that goes for investors go for entrepreneurs. There's a lot
mhm.
of opportunities right now. The technology has evolved, and the market has evolved. Any big change needs a minimum critical mass, as I said yesterday, and this critical mass has been achieved in blockchain cryptocurrencies.
Mhm. Absolutely, you're spot on. And Federico, thank you so much for all the knowledge that you've shared today and all of your insights. Again, from on the ground perspective around Brazil and South America as a whole, and even the bigger global picture as well. And any closing thoughts that you have further for the audience tuning in today, and then of course, where can everyone find you on your new fund as well to connect on today's topics and others as well.
Closing thoughts is just always to be aware that it's a new market. It has a lot of opportunity, but it has a lot of risks too. So
Hmm.
everybody need to be, as a friend of mine say, play from a position of strength
Hmm.
and not do crazy stuff. I can be found on LinkedIn, Frederico Mesquita. That's the easy way. Or if you want to drop me a line, my email is fred@leaseglobal.net. And it's always a pleasure to share insights, and thoughts with our community.
Thank you so much, Frederico. It is always a pleasure and such an honor to have you today as well. And thank you again for joining us. And to your audience, again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, make sure you click subscribe, share the episode, and check out the archive on LATOKEN.com to hear more from Frederico on a ton of subjects, including today's and all of our speakers of the VCTV family as well. And if you'd like to be on a show like today, like Frederico, do reach out to the team and or myself, either as an investor or as an entrepreneur, and we'll find that right spot for you. A big thank you to the team at LATOKEN and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott and on all social media platforms along with Frederico as well. And please, when you reach out, add context, where you heard us, where you saw us, and what you would like to continue the conversation about as well. And as we did earlier today on this subject, we'll be covering news around the industry, around blockchain and crypto all day, every day. So make sure you tune in early mornings here on the Pacific and East Coast, and also globally around the world to hear what is the latest and greatest happening in this industry to keep you up to date on the trends. And with that, we'll be taking a short little break. We'll be back here with more VCTV in just a few minutes.